So I think last week we went through mm, a few important concepts. The concept of the, what we say, the three jewels in regards to not being a savior, more of a concept of a teacher, a guide, guidance provided in aspects of what do we say, aspects of the of training the body, speech, and mind. Then I think we also went through the concept of why why the Buddha specifically, then why the Dharma specifically, and why the Sangha specifically uh, is included in the refuge. Why take refuge? Why take refuge in the Buddha? How the Buddha qualifies as the object of refuge, how the Dharma qualifies as the object of refuge, how the Sangha qualifies as the object of refuge. And then I think within what we say, mm, yeah, that one. And then within Dharma, we had the differentiation between the realized Dharma and the scriptural Dharma, the difference between that. And then in Sangha, of course, we had a little bit of a discussion in regards to ultimate Sangha, but then the partition between conventional Sangha, then ordained Sangha, ultimate Sangha, and then of course the Arya Sangha. So that one. Today, I think we go a little bit more deeper into the concept of refuge, mainly through the Madhyamika concept. Yeah. Okay. So, Sangye chodang zoge sonam la chanchu pato dane gyab sunche dage zinso gebe sonam. Tula binje sangye dupa asho sangye chodang zoge sonam la chanchu pato dane gyab sunche. Dage zinso gebe sonam ge tula binje sangye dupa asho sangye chodang zoge sonam la chanchu pato dane gyab sunche. Dage zinso gebe sonam ge tula binje sangye dupa. Mhm. Okay, so yeah, so uh, uh, okay, I think yeah, now working. Okay, so coming down to the concept of refuge through the Madhyamika evolves around a specific question. The question being, who takes refuge? Then in whom, which is the subject. Then from what? Yeah, refuge from what? So I think from the lens of the Madhyamika, generally um, there's a lot of examining on what we say subtle questions. If the person taking the refuge, what we say, the Buddha who provides refuge and the suffering or the confusion of which one seeks refuge are all empty of inherent existence, then what does refuge actually mean? So I think we did go a little bit into this last session. This is a little bit more uh, what we say contemplative in regards to the philosophies taught in the Buddhist concept. So yeah, so if everything is empty of inherent existence, then what does refuge actually mean? Yeah. So uh, uh, mm, mm. So the purpose, I think, mainly the outline in regards to the purpose, that it is not undermining refuge, uh, but through the concept of inherent existence, uh, empty of inherent existence, and then through that the refuge actually deepens. Yeah, the refuge becomes stronger. So yeah, Madhyamika shows that emptiness does not destroy the possibility of refuge. Then rather than destroying the possibility of refuge, what it does, it because things arise, the emptiness on the basis, I think concept of the emptiness is on the basis of dependent origination. So rather, because these everything dependent origin, everything what we say, everything dependent originated, impermanent, what we say, consistent, continuity, and on the basis of dependent origination. Therefore, what happens is one thing happens, which is function. Now, without a dependent origination, then function ceases to exist. The only reason why everything is inherent, what we say, empty of inherent existence, the whole reason why everything is does not have a, what we say, a sole existence and non-dependent existence, inherent existence. These are all same, what we say, synonyms, right? So because these do not possess of an empty nature, yeah, because these possess of a dependent nature, uh, non-inherent nature, therefore the function uh, is integrated. So because the function is integrated, therefore a Buddha can guide. Because a function, function exists based on dependent origination, because function comes to existence, therefore, what we say, non, what we say, non-capable, non-capable uh, person, or a non-capable so-called concept of God, or non-capable Jizo. Jizo is like what we say, the uh, inherent being or inherent existence, and this cannot guide because of the function's existence. Therefore only capable, only what we say, perfectionist, only someone who has the capability can guide. Yeah, so in this instance we put the first of the three jewels, which is the Buddha. Therefore the Buddha can guide. A perfectly enlightened mind can guide. A perfect guide can guide. Yeah, so that is that. Uh, because of the function, because of the dependent origination, therefore the function exists, and because of the function existence, therefore, on the basis of dependent origination, the function solely exists. The function of guidance solely exists on the object where all what we say, all cause and conditions to guide are prevalent, are there. Without that, then the guidance cannot exist, right? So that is there. Then the second one, in regards to whom, the practitioner, right? Guiding whom? The practitioner. And if the practitioner is empty of inherent existence, then why the practitioner can be what we say, guided by the what we say, empty, inherently empty, in what we say, empty of inherent existence. The Buddha that is empty of inherent existence is because of function, because of inherent empty of inherent existence. Therefore the function of being trained, or the function of practice, exist. Just imagine, yeah, if you are thinking, then just imagine, for example, something that, let's say, for example, I don't know, this pen, though dependent origination is existence there. This pen itself, I can very clearly say, is inherent of, what is it, empty of inherent existence, right? And the reason I can say that it's empty of inherent existence is because it depends on so many different levels, right? It depends on the cap, it depends on the inner mechanism, it depends on, I don't know, the pressing, all of these things. There's no solely existent in here. Yeah. So because this empty, this what was it, empty of inherent existent pen is existence, and I can utilize it. Therefore, the function exists. So let's for a moment say this is inherently existent. Like this, there's no dependency on this. The pen does not depend on anything at all. Does not depend on the north or the south or the top or the bottom or the inner or the outer. It doesn't depend. It's just existence. First of all, that makes no sense. Yeah. Now, second of all, even though that makes no sense, second of all, the biggest problem is the function cannot exist because the continuity cannot exist. If it's independent of all nature, if it's independent of you and me, then who's going to use this pen? There's no usage. If I'm independent of this pen and I cannot utilize this pen, then what's the usage of the one who's writing? Who's going to utilize it, right? So that kind of concept, I think, prevalent in the concept of function. Cause and effect, impermanence utilizes the concept that because it's cause and effects, it's dependent and functioning and not functioning, cause and effect and dependent and continuity. Therefore, the continuity exists in the past to the present to the future. If it's independent, it should be independent of past, present, and future as well. No, you can't say it's independent of this, but non-independent of that. That makes no sense. Same as I, right? When you say I say I'm independent. What am I independent of? Then we have the concept of God. God is independent. Then what about his creations? The same concept. How can a creator be independent from his own creation? He should be interdependent with his own creation. No? So that concept, I think, this is what the dependent origination, yeah, the non-independent, empty of inherent existence. This is what establishes the concept of function. This is what establishes the concept of relation. This is what established the concept of dependent origination. And because it establishes the function, the dependent origin, and the nature of non-independency, therefore the function itself exists. There's no function in independency. Just imagine independent, you being independent of everything, you being independent of food, you being independent of sleep, you being independent of the world. Just imagine, how can you function? The function totally cease to exist, right? So therefore, the one core establishment of the concept of the independent, what is it, inherent existence, uh, the non-independent existence is it produces function. And because it produces function, therefore a guide can guide. And therefore a practitioner can be guided. And therefore a practitioner can practice. And therefore a practitioner can attain. And therefore a practitioner can, what we say, train. And the same logic is used in regards to the existence of suffering. Why if the whole concept of suffering, if suffering is independent, then why do we suffer? If the suffering is independent of us, then how is it related to us? Why are we suffering? You can cut all ties with nature, with food, with everything, and go into a secular place. You'll still suffer. And first of all, there's no independent place as well, right? Where is the independent place? Wherever you go, there's dependency there. So that, I think, concept is the pinnacle of the concept of the Madhyamika. Madhyamika's pinnacle concept is that establishment of that realization that there is no independence. Though we think independence, oh, independence, in our concept, I think independence is very, very, what do we say, on a very, what do we say, gross level, right? Independent of, we cannot be independent of money, but we can be independent of the money of a certain person. So therefore, we say, "Oh, I've reached 18 and I've moved out of my house and now I'm independent." This is the concept that we utilize. That independence is on a very gross level, on a very specific, particular level. But the true independence is non-existence there. The moment the money ceases to exist, then you go running back to your parent, you go running back to, wherever the money is coming from, right? So even though we try to establish the concept of independence, and like I said, that is there. Oh, my country is independent. We say that. But yet again, when there's a war somewhere else, it affects our country. Recently, now, Middle East, they're having war. Oh, we're having problem issues in, well, the war. We say, well, we are living. Nepal is, functioning, is not affected by the war, so we say it's independent. But in reality, it is. The gas prices is going up. We have a hard time getting gas here. Everything is so. In reality, if you go down to the subtle level, there's no independence. Everything is interdependent. This is where the concept of the nature, the independent nature does not exist. It's empty of inherent existence. Yeah, so this is what I think the whole Madhyamika concept is establishing. So same thing with the three jewels, yeah, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Yeah, when it comes to the Buddha, establishing that the Buddha is the guide. Because of that, then it supports the concept of the support of the guidance. Yeah, so, like I said, coming back to the whole concept of suffering itself, the whole concept that suffering can cease to exist, that the experience of suffering can cease to exist, is also dependent on the concept of what we call empty of inherent existent, or empty of non-independent existent. Because of that, then the function exists, and because of the function, therefore, it can cease. And the same thing with refuge. Because there's function, through this concept, because there's function, therefore refuge can be a meaningful transformation in one's life. Yeah. Otherwise, it's hard to make true sense of anything around us. And when I say sense, I mean true sense, like in contemplative sense. Yeah, faith-based sense is easier to develop, I think. Faith-based sense, you don't need so much logic. You don't need to make sense of things. It exists because it exists. End of question, end of contemplation, end of debate, end of everything, right? But when it comes to the usage of what we say, contemplative understanding, where the mind is able to initiate a solid reasoning, what do we say, contemplation that can unite our own understanding with the existence itself. There, we're having a problem with a lot of things. So, because the Madhyamika concept utilizes this concept, therefore, the integration becomes very, very, what we say, clear in some sense. Yeah. So anyway, through the Madhyamika concept, then I think a lot of establishments within the understanding, the clarity of understanding can, what we say, can arise. And I think mainly through the concept of the Madhyamika, then I think mainly through that concept, then uh, uh, what we say, understanding the difference between dependent existence and one inherent existence. That is one very, very important aspect. Then on top of that, then explaining why emptiness does not make the Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha or refuge meaningless. It becomes a more what we say, because of the concept of function through the concept of dependent origination, therefore it becomes more meaningful. Then also I think when it comes to why, I think we talked about the three aspects of refuge, yeah, protector, protected, and then the protection itself. So there also the establishment of how these can be established. And then of course, the difference between ultimate and what is a conventional refuge also arises through that. Yeah. Then I think understanding how refuge changes as realization develops, because again, because of function, therefore change, because of change, therefore the realization, starts to intend to grow slowly, starts to grow slowly. And therefore, the realization, when we say realization deepens, and therefore this arises. Yeah. Then, of course, between the connection between Madhyamika refuge and deeper Buddhist path, this establishment is talked within the Madhyamika concept later on, of course, things that we can talk about. So, uh, when I say I take refuge in Buddha, but then first concept is who is the I? Yeah, I'm taking refuge in the Buddha. I'm taking refuge in the Dharma. I'm taking refuge in the Sangha. I want a refuge. The first thing that Madhyamika always points out is contemplate on who the I is. Then through that, then of course, I think this is also within the meditation. If you want to do meditation, it can be done through that. So then when I say I take refuge in the Buddha, then comes the second question: who or what is the Buddha that I'm relying on upon? Then finally, I think, what exactly am I taking refuge from? Yeah, I think we did talk about this a little bit, but then mainly, what am I taking refuge from? And these three questions, very, very, I think it allows us to experience that what we say, the ordinary language of refuge sort of like contains the assumption about the self, about the Buddha, about the suffering, and about, how, the whole concept of how the refuge works. Right. So when it comes to who takes refuge, the conventional person, the individual who experiences suffering, yeah, confusion, fear, dissatisfaction, um, uh, uh, and of course our own wish to be free from all of this. That's who takes refuge. Then comes to in whom we take refuge. Conventionally, we take refuge. We say we take refuge in the, what we say, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three jewels. Then, of course, from what do we take refuge? Then comes the ultimate part. We seek freedom. We seek liberation. Yeah, we seek uh, uh, non, what we say, constant bondage of the suffering, of the ignorance. Then, of course, of attachment, dissatisfaction, then aversion, then, of course, karma and its results. Because function exists, therefore karma and its results exist. Then, of course, basically the samsaric experience. what we say samsaric confusion, right? So at a deeper level, refuge is, I think, not simply protection from external circumstances. Yeah, I think it is a refuge from ignorance itself. And this is why within the 12 links of dependent origination, the root of all of this comes down to the concept of ignorance, particularly what we say the mistaken, what we say apprehension of phenomena as inherently existence. That is one of the true ignorances that can exist. That is where our mind starts to go all over the place and see things as completely non reliant in some sense. If I do not accept suffering, if I say, oh no, suffering does not exist, suffering, suffering, what is it? Suffering is created, does not exist at all. Does that mean I'm free of suffering? No. I can say that as much as I want and I'll still suffer. So the method to utilize the three gems is through the concept of dependent origination, is through the concept of understanding very clearly that there is no independent existence. Suffering itself, because it is impermanent, therefore it's dependent, and we are dependent. Yeah. And the two coming together is where the function happens, and that's where the experience happens. It is very clear. Without the function, where's the experience? The experience uh, stops from coming. You cannot define an experience without the function. So through that, I think the important establishment, one of them, I think one of the more within the Madhyamika concept, one of the more important concepts that need to be established in on the basis, on the basic, what we say, on the uh, ground level, is the understanding of dependent origination. Because without dependent origination, definitely the view of emptiness, or what we say, uh, uh, what we say, um, um, putting uh, emptiness of inherent existence side by side uh, with independent existence, and coming to understand what everything, what function is very hard. So establishing that function exists on the basis of that, right? So definitely on the base level, then I think going through the 12 links of dependent origination, or just understanding dependent origination on its own, can be such a, such a clarity in regards to understanding the what we say connection between the two. So, therefore, what arises dependently does not exist inherently. And that is very clear. Uh, because dependence and inherent existence and dependence is completely, what we say, contradictory. Does that make sense? Dependence and inherent existence is contradictory. So what arises dependently does not exist inherently. So what do things depend on? Very clearly in our own understanding, it depends on cause and conditions, definitely. And this is why our whole world functions because of cause and condition. We do things because of cause and condition. We avoid things because of cause and condition. Yeah, we work on things because of cause and condition. We order things because of cause and condition. So you can see that every function is on the basis of cause and condition. Look at our mind. When our mind goes berserk and starts to reason and logic and says, I need this and I need that and I want this and I want that, and on and on and on and on again. What is it going on again for? Cause and condition. On the basis of cause and condition, it goes on and on. Without the existence of cause and condition, our mind would not even contemplate on these things. Yeah, so therefore, in the Buddhist concept, we say, if you can see smoke out from behind a hill, then the mind can calculate, there's a fire, right? When there's smoke, there is a fire. How does our mind calculate that? The calculation happens on the basis of cause and condition. It's not that we see the fire, but we can calculate it. We can anticipate. We can, what we say, interpret. We can, you know, utilize what is in front because of cause and condition to make sense of things. And this is one of the profound reasons why, the contemplation aspect in Buddhism is very, 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 very broad. And when it comes down to the concept of what we say non non cause and condition, then anything can be imagined out of anything. I could say, oh, there's smoke coming out from behind the hill, therefore there's water there. But is that logical or not? And if it is not logical, then why is it not logical? How can I not establish that concept? Because there's smoke coming from behind the hill, therefore there should be water behind the hill. Why can I not establish that concept? Why is that concept not validated? It comes down to cause and condition. We apply it every day. We contemplate every day. Oh, because something is happening over there, therefore now the price is going to go up here. So uh, being stuck in an imaginary game is different from truly utilizing the what we say the state of reality, And if we go on the basis of faith belief and on the basis of non-contemplative belief systems, then yes, I could say yes. Well, there's smoke coming out from behind the hill, and therefore there's water there. And if anyone says, but how does that add up to water being there? Then I can say, well, this is what I was told. If there's smoke, there should be water. Not that I've seen it, not that I believe it, but this is what my concept, my what do you say, my path has told me, and therefore, this is what my guru has told me, my teacher has told me. Therefore, I can contemplate, I can say that. So the whole concept of cause and condition is on the basis of reacting, understanding, contemplative reaction in regards to understanding things on the basis of reasoning and logic, because the reasoning and logic is interconnected, yeah, interdependent with what we are able to conceive and see. And therefore parts, yeah, when we say parts of our body, for example, is the same thing. And nothing exists independently. Neither does my hand exist independently from my brain. And because it does not exist independently from my brain, so that's why when someone tries to, I don't know, chop up my hand, my brain starts to freak out. There's no independence there. That's why when a tire of a car, explodes, or I don't know, flattens or whatever, then the car ceases to function, because the dependence is there. The dependent origination, the concept of the dependent origination is there. So therefore, the function is clearly integrating these together. So yeah, so anyway, coming down to this, then cause and condition definitely, relationships definitely, then conceptual designation definitely, then paths, right? So these are the four things upon the four things that what we say that dependent origination uh, utilizes in order to develop the concept of what we call empty of inherent existence. And therefore the function arises because of thoughts, because of relationships, because of conceptual designation, and because of cause and condition. Therefore function exists. Therefore results exist. And because functions exist, therefore action exists. And because actions exist, therefore results exist. Yeah, so this is the whole, bringing everything together into this chain of connection. At the moment the chain of connection ceases to exist, then then becomes a problem, right? So if I give you an example, a person cannot be found as an independent, permanent entity existing separately from the body, mind, cause, condition, experience, all of that, and then separately from the designation that what we say constitutes our conventional understanding of a person. You take that person, yeah, that example of a person, and uh, you you make it independent, yeah, a permanent entity of something that is completely separate from all of these things. Imagine what you are left with. You're left with nothing. So even existence itself ceases to exist when the concept of dependent origination is not utilized. Yeah, even the existence itself ceases to exist when we say, oh, independence, inherent existence. Bring out something that is inherently existence and try to, what we say, try to separate them from all of this. A person, whatever it may be, oof, gone. There's no more existence. You not just cannot merely designate, but the function itself also ceases to exist. Yeah. So I think the emptiness, view of emptiness is very profound in that way. But yet we do not conclude, therefore, the person does not exist. Yeah, we cannot. So instead of that, we understand the person exists conventionally and dependently, but not inherently. Yeah, the person exists conventionally on the basis of the understanding of the mind, dependently on the basis of uh, not wanting to, what we say, not wanting to link everything together, not wanting to see that connection. But then again, inherently, not inherently. Yeah, the existence of inherently existence now makes everything cease to exist. But do you want existence? This is the confusion of the mind here. The mind is constantly fighting with the what we say, with the non-inherentness with and the dependentness. Because this is contradictory, therefore our mind constantly we have afflictions arise because of that. We understand it in one way, but then we don't want to. I mean, the understanding from perceiving and from contemplation, we understand one thing, but we don't want it that way. This is contradictory, no? So I think, therefore, uh, uh, what we say, we often make one of two mistakes. Yeah, first, and this is both mentioned within the Madhyamika. First is eternalism. If something exists, it must exist independently and inherently. That is a very strong concept that we have. Yeah, this is eternalism. Then the second one that we often make a mistake is when it comes down to nihilism. Uh, 1 second, okay? I'll be 1 minute. Sorry, I forgot my tea. Mm. So, yeah, what was I talking about? Mm.
Yes. Now.
Nihilism. Yeah, nihilism. So, so the second mistake we make is nihilism. If something is empty, it does not exist at all. So this is where the whole concept of madhyamika, the ume lam, we say uma is u is middle, then lam uma is middle, and lam is path. So the middle path. So the what do we say madhyamika umelam practice of the madhyamika umelam is true because of dependent origination and because of cause and causality, because of non-independence and non-inherent, yeah, then function and existence. Therefore, with all of this concept, what establishes is establish the concept of the middle way. Things exist dependently, but they do not exist inherently. Yeah, functions exist dependently, but they do not exist inherently. The mind exists dependently, but they don't exist inherently. I exist dependently, but I do not exist inherently. And that's what it establishes. Like I said, eternalism, if eternalism on the basis of how our concepts work, we normally, what we say, latch onto the concept of eternalism because we say if something exists, it must, what we say, if something exists, then it must exist independently and inherently because that's what we feel. When I see my existence, I see myself as independent. Inherent. My inherentness has nothing to do with anyone. My function has nothing to do with anyone. And then I think I think this concept, the concept when it comes to different religion, then because they cannot define through the concept of dependent origination, yeah. So then they say my existence solely dependent on one thing, creation or creator. So it's trying to establish the same concept, yeah, of of uh, uh, what we say uh, uh, of the concept of eternalism. If I exist, then I must exist independent and inherently. But then because they cannot establish the whole concept in regards to sort of like a reality check, then in reality you need to there has to be somewhere I came from, right? This is the question that goes up in the mind. Because of cause and condition, I should have come from somewhere. Even though I know I'm independent and I know that I am what we say inherently there, existent, but because of cause and condition, I must come from somewhere. Something, must have, something magical must have happened. So yes, something magical did happen. You were created, right? There's a magical being, and that being created you. So this is one logic that we do seek. And I mean, of course, if you want to believe it, then definitely it can be contemplated into the structure of this same concept of nihilism and eternalism. It can, but whether that is integrated when it comes to whether you can integrate that with the reality in regards to what we say non-inherent existence and in regards to what we say non-independency or in regards to dependent origination, then that's when everything clashes. Just because one, what we say, just because one spice tastes really good, you can't go mixing up, you know, all the spices, right? Each of them in their own nature tastes very good. Yeah, I have spicy here, I have this spice there, I have 10 different spices, and each of them tastes very good in from their on their own basis. But then because just because each of them tastes very good, I cannot add all of them into the soup, right? The moment I add all of them into the soup, then I get a disaster. So exact same concept, right? And this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to add everything into the soup and make the soup, profound. We cannot do that. And the reason we cannot do that, again, coming down to the concept of function, on the concept of cause and condition. Either you need to negate the whole concept of cause and condition and say, yes, now the profoundness is there. Yeah, now you say, okay, there's no dependence on cause and condition, so therefore the profoundness is there. And if you do not depend on cause and condition, then then the functions that are happening when you ask a question, you say, okay, but because I did this, this happened. Why did this happen? Then you say, well, will. That's where I think a lot of people do direct towards when it comes to contemplation. Yeah. Especially when it comes to religious contemplation, then you say, oh, God's will or creator's will or some in the philosophy it's mentioned jizu is like the yeah, someone helped me translate it but then I forgot the translation. But yeah, chi means the generality. Zo is like the main generality. So this is, I think, similar to the concept of God. So there's one something that there's that everything depends on the general dependency on something, and that is the supreme dependency. There's no interdependency around here. Everything is dependent over there, and the function is on the basis of dependence over there. So that kind of concept, I think, slowly comes in. No? Because we are contemplative species, we need to contemplate. We need to understand. I mean, not just human beings. Human beings contemplate on a different level. I think every animal, if you look at every species, the contemplation of cause and effect is definitely there. The result is there. When you feed a dog, once you start feeding a dog, the dog tends to get closer and closer to you. Cause and condition. Even the dog functions on it doesn't on our intellectual level, it doesn't function as a human. But on an emotional level, that intelligence is definitely there. That's why we say the universal intelligence within all species is emotional. This is the universal what is intelligence? It's emotions. Contemplative intelligence, that is different from species to species, and we can see that. Yeah. So anyway, something to something to contemplate on. I don't know whether this helping in establishing the what is that, the three jewels concept of the three jewels. But what I'm trying to integrate here is the concept of madhyamika, and uh, when you integrate the concept of madhyamika, then it really integrates so well with the concept of the three jewels that it makes the whole concept of refuge so much more meaningful. And not just so much more meaningful, it is that you don't have to depend on some kind of magical explanation. It is logically, sensibly, what we say, conceptually integratable. And that's what Madhyamika presents in the whole structure of the Buddhist philosophy. Is what Madhyamika establishes is that reliability on non-magical, some kind of, uh, some kind of, uh, overly, what we say, non-explained, overly established concept. It doesn't, non-dependent on something like that. It very clearly establishes the concept of function. Therefore, it works. Therefore, therefore, and uh, everything that a practitioner does happens because of function. And because of non-inherent existence, therefore the dependency on an inherently existing something does not have to happen. Yeah, so this is important for the mind, because through that, then the mind can continue, what is it, cultivate uh, wisdom in regards to integration. Yeah, so when I walk, I truly walk. I don't walk just for the sake of walking. I walk enjoying the walk. And same thing with what we say, same thing with practice. With this, what happens is practice becomes truly enjoyable because you see sense in it, you see clarity in it. Not practice because someone told you to do so, or practice because practice is said to be the way to liberation, but clear realization that yes, through practice, then liberation is possible because of function, because of dependent origination, because cause and effect, because things work that way. If like I said, I think this is a very good example that that is being used, that has been used over and over again in the Buddhist logical system. It's very easy, and it's like, yeah, I know that. It's like, but the example is with the fire and the smoke. If I burn a wood here, and I show that burning a wood, creating fire on a wood, or burning the wood creates fire, and this fire creates smoke, then the contemplation is very clear that next time when you see the smoke coming from behind the hill, immediately, because of that clarity, the mind says, there must be a fire behind the hill. Even though I don't see a fire, I can very clearly contemplate that there's a fire over the behind the hill. Then someone can come and say, "Oh, no, 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 it's water behind the hill. That's why there's smoke." And you'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Right? That is clarity. You don't need to go and believe, because he said so, therefore must be. You can actually contemplate and actually see it very clearly for yourself that, it's fire, it's not water. So, if Buddha exists dependently, does a refuge become weaker? Definitely not, right? So, I think, but this is something to discuss on. If the Buddha is also dependently arising and empty of inherent existence, does that make a Buddha, what we say, less reliable? And this is why I think a lot of other faith systems do question the Buddhist system is on the basis of that. Well, the Buddha is dependent. The Buddha is no different from anyone. If you're saying I'm dependent, you are dependent, pen is dependent, everything is dependent, and you are saying the Buddha is dependent, then what's so magical about him? And why? And if he's not magical, then what is so reliable about him? Why make him the object of refuge? Why don't you just take me as the object of refuge? Right? There's no difference. I think that kind of mindset does come in because we seek some kind of, like I said, we seek on the basis of eternalism and nihilism, we seek that kind of, that kind of independent, you know, nature. We can only be led by some kind of, cosmic nature, independent, cosmic, non, you know, what do we say, magical, non. Uh, And if it's is non different from anything else that we are experiencing, then there's no magical in there. And if there's no magic in there, then why should I create that dependency? That kind of, not to say that this exists everywhere, but that kind of mindset does come up because we have a tendency of laying our faith and our hopes and our things on something way beyond reality. We have a tendency of doing that with our mind, no? So yeah, so then yeah, like I said, does that make the Buddha reliable as an object of refuge? So uh, mm, so I think dependent existence explains how the Buddha can function as a Buddha. Yeah, dependent origination. What do we say? Explains how the Buddha's qualities do not appear without cause and condition. Yeah, it explains Buddhahood itself developing through the what we say through the cultivation of wisdom. Yeah, through the development of compassion, through the accumulation of merits, through the purification of obscurations, through the practice of path, and then of course through the realization of dependent origination or the realization of emptiness. Yeah, the Buddha is empty of inherent existence, but that does not negate the Buddha's qualities. Therefore, it makes Buddha's qualities much more profound. It's a functioning quality, not a non-functioning quality. Yeah, the qualities we are seeking in something magical and what we say oblivion is a non-functional quality. Yeah, we take everything that is beautiful in our life, the most handsome, the most beautiful, you know, we like freedom, so we like and we aspire to fly in the sky, so something that has a wing. Yeah. Then we like functions, magical functions, so making things disappear, making things appear, making suffering, what we say, disappear by its own without any cause and conditions. That's what we like. I mean, this is what the mind seeks. And that's what the mind, because the mind seeks something like this is what the mind creates as well. And this one we can see very clearly. I think, I don't know if this one goes to everyone, but when I was young and I was in the puja and I had to sit in the puja for hours and hours and hours, then I let my mind roam around. It goes all over the place, and it starts to create all of these imaginary things. And this is where the whole concept of superheroes comes, and entity where there's no dependency, there's freedom, flying, that, this, all of this. And there definitely is some kind of peace in that as well, seeing that kind of thing. Uh, and I think this is quite interesting when it goes down to the mind, how the mind functions and how the mind sees these things, and on the basis of what the intention is. So imagine you hate someone, right? You don't like someone. Now, where does the mind go? The mind goes and creates something that is independent of all nature that can destroy that hate. Yeah, that can destroy that person, that can, the power to, the will to do anything to, you know. This is why we call it imaginary. But, and if you truly utilize reality, nature, structure, then you understand that that function cannot happen. This is very clear. All the functions that we created in our mind that cannot happen in reality. We know that very clearly. But it's another experience to be on that level, right? To be in that state, as we say. I think it's similar to maybe getting extremely drunk. I don't know. Some people like getting extremely drunk and they have tendency of drinking a lot. I think it's kind of similar. It it utilizes the chemicals to what we say, to minimize the ability of the mind to function on a realistic level. So when that function arises within the mind, then the what we say, the creation is much more fluid in some sense. And being in that state is much more of a peace, experience of peace, I think, because there's no, you don't have to answer to anyone, you don't have to respond to any questions in some sense. And in some sense, I think it does give us that that small spark of independence, non-dependent nature, because within our mind itself we are very, very functional on the concept of dependence, even though we try to avoid and say, oh yeah, I'm independent, even though that is there, deep within that function. I think that experience may be there. I'm not so sure, I'm just speculating all of this, but I think, yeah, some kind of experience. What do you say, if you are a goer, party, we say party goer, party, what is it, party person? Then maybe you can explain, maybe there is that. Uh, mm, okay, so yeah, so that is there. So anyway, just like I mentioned, through this, then the qualities of the Buddhas become much, much, much more established through the understanding of cause and condition. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, all of the qualities that are achieved through the conditioning, then it's achievable. When there's no conditioning and qualities arise, that's questionable. That's not amazing. That's questionable, right? I think same thing. Same thing happen if there's a murder case and you cannot solve the case. Then is the case solved, or is the case questionable? We say the case is questionable. We don't say the case is solved. So exactly same thing. When the conditions are there, then it's solvable. If there's no condition, nothing there, then it's questionable. It's not solvable. So I think the same aspect, through the same contemplation, we can say that because of the cause and conditions, cultivation, development, accumulating, purification, practicing, then realizing, therefore, because of all of these causes, therefore, you know, uh, what we say, therefore, uh, is not something questionable. When someone does not work at all and suddenly achieves a lot of money, suddenly he or she attains a lot of money, then that person becomes questionable. When someone is working hard, putting effort, building a business, doing that, doing this, working very hard, and then suddenly has a lot of money, then everyone says, yeah, yeah, this person put the effort, it's not questionable. So I think in the same aspect, right? So therefore, anyway, this builds that emptiness does not prevent function. Yeah? Because things are empty, they arise, they change, they interact, they function. And through that, then Nagajuna's what we say, reasoning, uh, what we say, uh, because things are empty, dependent origination and functioning are possible. Yeah, this becomes an important bridge between the Madhyamika philosophy and the concept of refuge. Yeah, when we want refuge, we want clarity. We don't want mystic refuge, unquestionable refuge. This is unquestionable refuge because of the functions, therefore it becomes unquestionable. Because of the qualities, therefore it becomes, therefore not unquestionable. You can question as much as you want, but then there's an answer to that. Yeah, so that is that. Then coming down to the concept of conventional refuge. Uh, what we say at the conventional what we say level, then refuge is meaningful and necessary. Yeah, the practitioner or the practicing person. Yeah, that if I, like for example, if I say I, then I'm experiencing suffering and confusion. The Buddha has shown what we say, um, uh, what we say, uh, shown a path beyond that confusion. Then my reliance upon that path and cultivating it myself, and that is the what recognition itself. No? So therefore, the Buddha is a teacher, the Dharma is the path and the realization, and the Sangha representing those who have entered and not just entered but progressed along the what we say along the path. Mm, mm, yeah, and what we say and provide guidance, inspiration, and support. Then at this level, I think refugee sort of like involves what we say involves emotional dependency. Yeah, this is there, especially in regards to trust, in regards to commitment, in regards to direction, in regards to aspiration. Then of course, ethical transformation. Then definitely practice at the end of it, utilization or the practice itself. So therefore, I think when it comes down to all of this contemplation through the utilization of the Madhyamika concept of the view of emptiness, then refuge is therefore not merely a what we say statement or what we say traditionally a ritual, right? It is more uh, more what we say sort of like a clear uh, engraving of through clarity engraving, right? Engraving into our orientation of our own life. Yeah, orienting our own life to pursue in a certain way, certain method, and that certain way and certain method only comes through out of clarity, not out of, like I said, not out of some fictional, imaginary, you know, uh, undoubtful, unclear means, but a very clear construct of everything that surrounds it by clear understanding. That is, I think, one of the most profound establishments. And this is one thing I do see different. Uh, maybe it's a lack of my own knowledge, but when I see the difference in regards to practice, then uh, the Buddha's method, uh, what we say, uh, integrates this kind of means and clarity much more than any other. I think from my own perspective, I would say much more clearer than any other concept of religion or way or sect or whatever it may be. Mm, mm. So yeah. Mm. So yeah, so then that is there. Then there's of course definitely the concept of the ultimate refuge. Uh, within the concept of the ultimate refuge, then if the Buddha or the practitioner and the act of taking refuge are all empty, then the whole concept of what remains. And this is where refuge begins to remove what we say, uh, not just remove, but go beyond ordinary dualistic thinking. And this is where I think refuge begins to move beyond what we say ordinary, ordinary conceptual thinking. Yeah, from the what we say from the integration of the ultimate Madhyamika perspective. And I think this utilization, there's many reasons behind this. One of the main reasons of the ultimate utilization, profound results of this utilization is in regards to the grasping. Develops, it sort of cuts down on the grasping. Just because of dependency being there, that does not mean we go grasping. And this is one of the biggest problems, no? We see the dependency, and because we see the dependency, therefore we go grasping onto everything. We see dependency on money, we go grasping for money. We see dependency on our loved ones, then we go grasping onto our loved one. We see dependency here, we go grasp there. We see dependency. So this is our functioning of the mind in regards to the graspingness. So one way to deal with it, again, through the Madhyamika concept or through the Madhyamika application, is through the concept of emptiness. The protector is empty, the protected person itself is empty, and the protection is empty itself. But this does not mean that there is no Buddha, there is no practitioner, and there's no refuge. It means none of this can be established as a, what we say, as a grasping object of independent intrinsic essence. There's no in there's no independent intrinsic essence within all of this that we should be possessing, we should be grasping towards. So it's like, what is the word? What is it? Uh, what is it? Taking two birds out with one stone or something like that. So it's something similar to this, right? Utilizing the Madhyamika concept, yeah, the ultimate state of in non-inherent nature, understanding through that the dependent origination and utilizing it not just to see the qualities in the Buddha, but also develop that aggressionness, that graspingness within ourselves. So it sort of balances things out on both sides. Yeah, it balances out that the nature of the object of the refuge is very clear on the basis of dependency and basis on of of function. Yeah, so mainly function, the basis of function. It makes it so clear on the basis of function. Then when it comes to ourselves, then there's no because there's no over explained, over what do we say, beautifying. Yeah, over what we say. Uh, uh, I don't know the word, over intensifying or something like that. Right? So because there's no overdoing something, therefore, there's no need to, develop that possession, that grasping attitude as well. Yeah, because this is, I think, one thing we normally see. This is why I say I like to use this. I normally say when you get married to a god and a goddess. Then when no no when you fall in love, then you fall in love with a god or a goddess. Then when you marry with a human being. Then when you are divorcing, then you are divorcing the devil. So it's the same concept, no? When you over, beautify things, oh the body, oh the face, oh the structure, oh the, the attitude, oh means, then the love, the graspingness, this becomes more profound. So it's important to stick to reality. We can see that, no? Because ultimately, through that experience, then once we over beautify something, then at one point we come to realization where there's so much beautifying that there's no reality in the nature itself. Then that's when the aversion, the what we say, the hatred or the aggression, the aversion tends to start. So uh, I don't know, something to contemplate on. Yeah. So yeah. Ah, then what else? So anyway, then of course the one important topic that the Madhyamika concept talks about is the threefold purity, what is the purity of refuge? Yeah, I think the Buddha is empty of inherent existence, the practitioners are empty of inherent existence, and the relationship between the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and the practitioner and the practiced and the path itself are all dependent, arising, and empty. And this can connect the border, what we say, Madhyamika practice of the threefold Madhyamika practice. So, yeah. So anyway, mm, um, I think there is ultimately, mm, uh, what we say, nobody taking refuge, and no Buddha. They can, what we say, and that can easily lead uh, our concept into nihilism, and a little bit of a problem. No, so conventionally, what we say. Uh, uh, conventionally take what we say refuge takes places, then ultimately none of these what we say components can be established independently. This is very important to understand that there's no independent establishment. It's all on the basis of dependence. Even the refuge itself is on the basis of dependence. Uh, so yeah, anyway, this is on the sort of like a subtle balance between the Madhyamika, uh, what we say, practice and the reality. Yeah, so conversion of reality through the concept of Madhyamika helps us integrate the refuge on a more profound level. Even though there's no profundity, the clarity itself becomes profound. Yeah, so this is, I think, where the dependency is. Mm. Anyway, then there is more. I think we on the concept of non-duality. Then, of course, when it comes to what we say, uh, one of the interesting topics is it comes down to through these understandings. Then, does an Arya being still take refuge? Is also one of the concepts, one of the debates that we used to do. Then, of course, there's refuge to the tantric context. Yeah, then yeah, so anyway, yeah, something like that. Any questions for today? Yes, Mary.
It's not really a question. It's well in response to a question that Rinpoche you mentioned. Thank you so much. The teachings are wonderful. When you were discussing that, we want to be led, by a cosmic magical being, right?
Yeah, yes.
That's something that's out there. It occurred to me that it's probably because we don't value ourselves, see our potential, see what our mind is capable of doing, that
Yes,
we just like no self-esteem, no nothing, that we always seek other. It's also
yes.
laziness and all that kind of thing, but I think it's just rooted in um, our lack of understanding ourselves. But anyway, I don't know if it just occurred to me. Thanks.
Yes, definitely. I think this is also one of the reasons why the profundity of the mind needs to be explored much more. We are not giving the mind the credit that it deserves. The mind, our capability of the mind. This is why within Buddhism, one of the first topics was lyric mind and mental factors. This is one of the first topics that we study so that we can see the profundity, the ability of the mind. The body has its limitations. Yeah, this one we can all agree to. Yeah, the body has limitations. Yeah, we can go to a certain point with the body, but then if we go beyond that, and I think also the mind at some points has limitations, but the limitations are what we say are obstructed by our clarity. The more clear we are, the less of a limit there is. And the more non-clear we are, the more what we say, for example, the more ignorance we utilize, the less the mind's ability tends to integrate. So this, I think we have talked about this in other courses that I've done in regards to expansion of the mind and the importance of the expansion of the mind. Because when you are able to expand, and this I see very clearly through Gyabje Lama Thubten Zopa Rinpoche, the limitations of his holy body and the non-limitlessness in his mind, the profundity of the mind, and that was very very clear. For me, I don't know everyone, but for me that was definitely, and I think a lot of people can agree with me, the profundity of Rinpoche's mind is beyond anything. And this I say sometimes, even with my own mind, then comes like, oh, is this even humanly possible sort of concepts. And I've seen instances within my experience with Rinpoche, where Rinpoche's capability of the mind goes beyond, what we think a normal human being is capable of. So definitely, I think that does, just like Mary mentioned, definitely that does become one of the, what we say, one of the things that keeps us from, from seeing things clearly in our and definitely our own encouragement and dependency of our mind and our mind's ability, and the lack of that definitely encourages us to integrate all kinds of different aspects to take control over our ability, and this is what we seek. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what Mary said. As this is again another profundity within the practice of Dharma, that we need to understand the capability of our own mind, the potential of that of the mind. Yeah, with the right, by understanding the concept of emptiness, then we are able to provide the right type of what we say means and methods to grow the mind and establish the mind, and through that establishment, then the limitation is completely what we say gone. So that utilization, I think, is where the practice of the of preach, I mean, the teachings of the Buddha himself integrates into. Yes, Cynthia.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your teachings. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So in terms of the Buddha, for example, predicting that the Dharma will decline in the degenerate age, right? There's such a prediction by the Buddha. Should we think of that as lacking inherent existence, therefore it still can change, but that the Buddha saw it at that time that he was teaching, or that he can see the future? Or do we think of that as because he has such wisdom at that time that he could actually foresee all the causes and conditions, and that will definitely happen? I'm kind of just thinking in terms of your teaching today, how we should think of that. Is that something that we, the people that are still practicing today, can we still hope that that could be changed? For example, even though the Buddha has said that, it will decline, that the Dharma will decline with time. Does that make sense? A question.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks.
I think there is two levels of this. On a personal level, I would say we have full control over everything. Over practice, my own practice depends on my own mind, my own establishment, my own implementation, my own clarity, and this is there, and this no one can change, right? No one can change this unless you want to be changed, and that's a different thing. So I think if we go to the concept of karma, is quite clear. When we talk about personal karma, I say you can change very easily. Today I'm practicing, I'm doing good, I'm becoming better and better, I'm becoming more clear, I'm becoming more, I normally explain karma as a child's play-doh in the hand, in the palm of your hand. And this is like your karma. If I put a child's play-doh in your hand, then this is the structure of your karma, and you are able to shape it. No matter how bad of a shape it is, you can shape it. So this is on a personal level. Yes, definitely. On a personal level, you cannot define whether that is true or that is untrue, or that is going to happen or that is not going to happen, because in an instant, like a millisecond, it can change. So on a personal level, definitely we have full control over, I mean, not over the anger and the hatred and the ignorance and all of that, but we have full control over where we want to head towards. Yeah, that is there. But on a universal level, we don't have that control. This is where collective karma matters. And Of course, this is one thing that we can take part into is influence, and this is one thing that we influence people to be better, to be kinder, to be nicer, to be more realistic, to to not be so angry, to not be so to negate the grasping attitude, so on and so forth. But everyone's personal choices are personal. We cannot control that. The only thing that we can do is influence, and this is where the concept of the what we say accumulated karma, or the what we say completed karma. What, I forgot the Buddhist terminology, but anyway, the collective karma. This is where the collective karma, functioning of the collective karma, does tend to lead towards, because we are getting more comfortable, yet we are having less time. Yeah, we are getting more smart. Yes, yet we have less experience, and this is where the world is heading towards. We can see that, right? So, on a collective level, it's hard to say that yes, we have control over it, because we really, I mean, on the personal level, we don't really have control over it. The only control the limited control that we have over it is influence, and that too, I mean, there's influence from both sides, and it's a very challenging aspect, right? I mean, you can go around teaching and preaching, and what we say what is introducing love and compassion and all of this, and unity, and secular means and ethics and all of that. But then people follow their own belief system, people follow their own faith, people follow their own guidelines, people follow their own we cannot control that. I mean, look at His Holiness. His Holiness is definitely universal, and we can see that. So universal to the point that he mentions very clearly that even though the Chinese took his country, he still has no hate for them. And that is a profundity. Forget about a country. If someone takes, I don't know, my pen or my thing, then my mind starts to express, some kind of aggression towards it. This is our own, this is our own nature, no? So even though someone with a profound mind such as that, integrating into the universe on a universal level, trying to integrate and influence all of these good qualities, the result is still, struggling. So definitely, like I said, there's two answers. On a personal level, with our own personal practice, definitely we can change it in an instant. Does not mean, so this is why I say on a personal level you shouldn't even care whether it is Kali Yuga or Pari Yuga or whatever, we call it degenerate times or non-degenerate. It shouldn't matter at all. And for me, I like to, well, in some sense it might sound like a joke, but in some sense I kind of feel that it's also real, that I say, Dharma, for now, for at this time, Dharma is more available than any time before in the whole history. And therefore, this is maybe the opposite of Kali Yuga. If you want to utilize, like I said, in the olden days, if you wanted a teaching, you had to travel, weeks. You had to carry your own champa, you had to carry your own things and walk for weeks and months to see a teacher, and then finally you get the teaching. Nowadays, you type on the computer, I want His Holiness teaching on emptiness. We have a whole list of teachings. So the availability is so profound that I don't know how to integrate the degeneration in here. And this is maybe my own personal view or thinking. But anyway, so on a personal level, I think, the Kali Yuga does not exist until you bring it into your own, what do we say, your surrounding. Right? If you bring it into your mind, if you bring it into all of this, then definitely, then Kali Yuga exists. But on a profound universal level, then, like I said, cause and condition seems to seems to indicate that it is going down, because there is more hatred, there is more there's more hatred, and with hatred there's more creation of more devastating means and methods to harm each other, right? if I give you an example, like, in the olden days, if you didn't like someone and you didn't see him for a month, probably you'd forget about this person. And nowadays, you don't like someone, you open your phone or your computer, you keep seeing that person's face. The hatred is going to grow more and more and more, no? So on that basis, yeah, it does seem like there is more hate. And look at the objects of destruction, right? It used to be stones and sticks, then it went into the metal, then from metal it went into guns, and now the world has what do you call atomic bombs. So the level of fear has gone up, the level of hatred has gone up. You can see that, so on that basis, then it's a little bit hard to say that no. As our anger grows, as our what is it, destructive emotions grow, then definitely on a universal level, then definitely it seems like there's no more place for to forgive and to consider and to chill down and relax. Everyone's freaking out. The uncertainty level is going up, no? So I think basically what I'm trying to say is there's I don't know how to answer you exactly, but basically two answers. On a personal level, I think definitely yes, you can change it. Even if Kali Yuga comes, even if you have gone down the what we say the most destructive ways of life, you can change in an instant, and you can meet a person, and that person can influence you, and you can change in an instant and become. And I've seen this, where I've seen people, like, I have friends when we were young, horrible people, so bad talking, bad words, beating up everyone like that. And then, you see them after 10 years and they've become a monk and they're in the monastery and they're, very quiet, very peaceful. I've seen that. So on a personal level, definitely there is that, you have full control over that. But yeah, universally, on a collective karma level, there's more things that we need to deal with. So it seems like the prediction, I think, a little bit harder to. Definitely, we can try, and like I said, His Holiness is trying his best, and not just His Holiness. I see lots and lots of influential people who do promote peace, compassion, love, care, unity, understanding, forgiveness, and this is there. So we play our part, but to say that we can change it on a like I said, on a collective level is a little bit harder. Make sense? I used the internet 2005 to introduce myself to Dharma. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so like that, a lot of things to think about. Yeah, Afisha.
Hey, Rinpoche. It's me,
Hello.
Rinpoche.
Ah,
Rinpoche,
Nim.
my understanding is that the reason why Buddha said that the Dharma will decline is not the availability, it's because of the practitioners not practicing properly.
Uh, there is different concepts, definitely. When it comes down to, I think when it comes down to practice itself, then definitely. I think decline, when we say decline can mean many things. Declination happens on many different levels. So, yes, Buddha has mentioned that there is declination. I mean, there is an era of declination in regards to availability. There's a term of declination in regards to practitioners not utilizing the right methods. There's all kinds of this is there. But then I'm talking on a universal level, because the world itself, on the basis of hate and what do we say discrimination and lack of patience and lack of
Yeah.
lack of these qualities as we we generally talk about. So definitely when it comes down to the what do we say declination of dharma itself, then yes, as time comes, then practitioners do not utilize it and tend to utilize it in the wrong ways. And you can see this
Yeah.
already, and we can see this already happening, where uh, what we say constitutions or committees or what we say institutions and all of these, of course they're when they're first built, it's built for a good reason, but as it goes, then it gets influenced by all the worldly things, and when it gets influenced,
Yeah.
then the mind changes, and then the goal changes. So now from making dharma available, from making teachings available, then becomes more of a political sort of like uh, what we say political struggle. Then now this is where we start to see mm, advantages being taken, yeah,
Mm.
physical advantage. Then of course one of the bigger ones, I think, comes down to what we call financial advantage of people, right? So
Mm.
this is definitely utilization of the dharma going on the wrong path.
Mm.
This again, not that it's not connected or linked to the practice of dharma. I mean, the not that it's not connected to our mindset. Same thing, like I said, at the universal level, the hate is going up, the competition is going
Mm.
up, the everything is going up. So
Mm.
this tends to affect how we utilize dharma as well. So yes, you are right. That Buddha has mentioned that the declination does happen on the through the practice, and this is within the not on a universal level, but I think this is within the practitioner. What we say circle, the circle of
Yes.
practitioners. Yeah, the declination of dharma within the circle of practitioners. Then
Yes.
yes, the usage of
Yeah.
practice itself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, then I hope you are enjoying. Hopefully, then something to think about, something to contemplate on. Uh, then other than that, don't worry too much. Uh, Relax, take it easy. Like I said, full, we have a profound mind. Then because of emptiness, because of dependent origination, we have full ability in our own karmic structure. So there's no need to fear. Yeah. The only thing, the need is the clarity, not the fear. Yeah, through the clarity, then there's no need to fear. Then our ability to take the steps, the encouragement, everything comes through the clarity. So utilize clarity wherever you can. Then other than that, enjoy. I think joy is one of the more important aspects of life, no matter what. Integrate joy into our lives. Uh, I always say, without joy, there is no practice. And this for me is very, very true. I don't know for other people. Maybe some people like striving and struggling in practice. But then for me is the joy that keeps me what is it, intact in the practice itself. So we need to utilize that, I think. Then other than that, yeah, uh, we have one more. And here you wrote, Cynthia, uh, we have one more, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have one more.
One more, yes. One more
Okay.
class
Yeah.
for
So
this.
yes. So yeah. So anyway, other than that, enjoy your day. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely night. Sweet dreams if you're nighttime.
Thank
I see
you.
someone is in Boda. Okay. Thank you.